He's not that guy.
We'll grab a ham sandwich on the way.
Those guys drive. No worries. What a year.
With bacon on it.
Yeah, with cheese. Yeah.
Okay. Back in session at 1:04. No public hearing required, but we will take citizens' comments on the second reading of us rolling back our water system monthly rates, fees, and charges. Ordinance GA 04-17. Anybody like to speak on that?
Seeing none, this is the second reading of an ordinance that I'll read by title only. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Punta Gorda, Florida, amending Chapter 17, Public Utilities, Section 17-7, Water System Monthly Rates, Fees, and Charges, and Section 17-18, Wastewater System Monthly Rates, Fees, and Charges, Punta Gorda Code, to remove the scheduled rate increases for fiscal year 2018, providing for conflict and severability, and providing an effective date.
Thank you. Any changes? No?
I move approval of GA-04-17.
Second.
We have a motion, a second, to approve GA 04-17. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried unanimously. Next, we have the consent agenda. Does anybody want to pull any items? There's resolutions for the Florida League, invoice for Person and Cohen, monthly litigation report, and CHNEP has 3 items. Would anybody like to pull any of those items?
No.
Nope.
Okay.
Move approval of the consent agenda?
Second.
Do we have any citizens' comments on the consent agenda? Okay, we have a motion, a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried unanimously. Okay, next we move into the regular agenda. So, citizens' comments on regular agenda items, which would be the 2018 strategic plan and the marine grade concrete and rebar to facilitate fabrication of seawalls. Also, discussion of boat trailer parking in the SRO district as a result of storm-related seawall failures. Would you like to speak on any of those? Okay, seeing none, we will move into the fiscal year 2018 strategic plan.
Gone ahead and made the wordsmithing based on the last council discussion. So if you would approve the FY 2018 strategic plan, that sets forth all the action items that we'll undertake.
I wanted to add one thing. We're adding one more of the citizens group, stakeholder group. There's a new homeowners, historic district homeowners association is forming now, and so they're going to want to be part of when the strategic plan. So the paperwork just got filed on Friday, so they're going to be at the table with this.
What's the name of the group?
The Historic District Homeowners Association Incorporated.
Historic District.
Yeah, so it's Western and Eastern Historic District homeowners, resident homeowners.
HDHOA.
Historic District.
Homeowners Association Incorporated.
Not Punta Gorda in front of it?
No.
Homeowners Association. Okay, we'll add them.
All the other changes were incorporated?
I had a citizen ask me 2 questions about the strategic plan. I just want to bring them up. In here, it says on page 12 of the package that citizen interaction through social media is going to decrease. Do we know why? Is there a specific reason why we feel that with all the massive amounts of social media transactions that take place?
You see that?
On page 12 of the strategic plan, it's the second item.
It goes from projected 48,996 to 50,000.
Oh, okay, I was reading it backwards. Okay, that's why I didn't see what they were talking about. Okay, so that's okay. And there was one other one, there's something, and I don't know where it is, but something about the police response time,
Yes.
that the response time is increased from 3.5 to 4
It did.
minutes or something like that?
Yes.
I don't know where it is. Do we know?
We had, sure, we knew exactly why. We had, in the past year, we've had some, actually, instead of putting 5 out there on any given time, we're down to 4 on many instances.
Okay.
So we're at minimal staffing, so it takes a little longer to respond to calls.
Okay.
We don't like to publicize how many people are out there on the road all the time, because we don't have a lot.
I asked the same question in my one-on-one with Howard.
So do you need a motion to accept the strategic
I
plan?
make a motion, we accept the strategic plan.
Second.
We have a motion, a second, to accept the 2018 strategic plan. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried unanimously. Okay, next we have authorization for city manager. And we're out of the state of emergency now, right? We're back to normal? Okay. So authorization for city manager to approve formal bid awards.
What we'd like to do is to keep this process moving. The bids will be opening before council meets again, rather than wait till the next council meeting. If everything is in order, we'd like to award the bids, but we'd still have to come back to you for the formal agreements.
I guess seeing as that I have some input from a family member on this matter, why would we want to do, like, is this putting the cart before the horse in case we do decide to change our design or any way that we're engineering the panels? I mean,
Well, we can wait, but that's not what we're
but
here.
what if we decide the rebar is not the rebar that we're gonna need or buy or want, or,
Won't use it all. But I thought our goal was to try and move forward and get these seawalls fixed. And if months and months down the road, we decide to change design, then
I don't know. I mean, I would think that we would need to be looking at our design before we start purchasing materials.
we can wait.
That sounds like what Mark was saying, that he wanted to, that doing reviews of failures. Is that what he said?
Yeah, we are. We are doing a review of failures, but we're gonna have people out there waiting longer and longer.
Yes, true.
I mean, if that's what you wanna do,
I mean, I don't want to wait, put people on a wait, but I want to be sensible about this too. I mean, this is big money here. I mean, what if we decide we are changing our design and we bought all this $1.7 million worth of rebar?
Would you like me to speak?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't catch all of it. I was finishing my hamburger. I'm sorry. I think I heard enough to
I'm just worried
comment.
if we find there's a design flaw and we've purchased these materials, what kind of position does that put us in?
So, for the record, Rick Keeney, Director of Public Works. First of all, because of the massive amount of water coming down from the rivers, we can't even see the seawalls. We don't know if they failed at the oyster line. And why is there failure there? Because the water, it's brackish water, and it goes up and down and up and down. That seems to be a weak point where that's when things start to rust, is when they get salt water in them and then the air gets to them, and then that promotes rusting. And those are a lot on our older panels. So it's going to be I don't know when the tides are going to go down for us to even see what even happened, if the toe kicked out or broke in the middle. But we have a lot of homes with people who are going to possibly lose their swimming pools, their decks. And so what we want to do, at least at a minimum with our current design, and if not longer, is to at least address those places. We got to get the people's homes back in order so they don't lose their homes, their pools.
So would these amounts be for those critical areas or for more than that?
No, the amounts that, I don't know what you're looking at. Is that the one, Gary?
contract award for
Big numbers.
the
Oh, big-
immediate material purchases for fabrication of seawalls. And,
Is that the 1.9 million for
Yes.
one and
Yeah.
1.7? Yeah, that's for the big picture.
That's the big
That's our
picture.
estimate. Now, we had already had in our plans, and it's in the budget for October 1st, we were going to hire a firm to relook at our seawalls anyway. That was our plan. So we think we still need to move forward with producing as many 10-foot panels as we can, and because that would put the whole program on hold. For an engineer to do a proper analysis is probably going to take a few months. That would even, put us even further behind with trying to get people back in there.
What about, wouldn't it be more sensible to buy what we need for the critical areas and do it in segments or not?
Well, it's going to take us months and months and months and months to even
Expand
produce all
this?
these panels. It's not going to be a short process. So we're coming up with a plan right now moving all of our vehicles and everything from one side of the public works yard to the other, making that whole area available for forms and building panels. We want to buy enough forms to be able to pour all the panels in 1 year. That's our plan right now, to buy enough forms to do
Okay,
everything in a
because
year.
this only speaks to concrete and rebar.
Right.
Gary?
I have a question, it's a technical question, the spec on the rebar, is this gonna be coated or passivated rebar or raw rebar?
That's that MMFX that we have. That's our current plan, and that's what we planned on sticking with.
Okay, so that material, as long as the passivation isn't disrupted, should be able to hold up the salt water for quite some time.
Yes, our engineer who designed this said we were looking at a 90-year life. I believe it was 90 to 100.
Okay, so the point being is even if we were to decide to, in the process, change technology, the work that we would be doing now would have a very significant durability. So I don't see a problem at this point so that we can go forward. And if we just, with this technology, because if the rebar is passivated properly, the spec is correct, if it's got a 90-year life to it, projected life to it, I think we're in good shape to go forward. Then if we find a better way to skin the cat, as they say, a year down the road, we can finish off with that. But to be able to secure the properties that are in imminent danger right now, I think any procrastination
Yeah, I have no
would be-
problem
would
with
be-
the severe cases,
idea.
getting them fixed up, but I really think maybe we should, I don't know, where are these funds coming from?
Right now, they'll have to come from the canal maintenance districts until we,
Do they have that?
until
county-
we know, because we're also hoping to get FEMA reimbursement.
For the record, Dave Drury, we have some money coming in there already in the fund. We have money coming in from the new taxes roll. Starts coming in, flowing in November, December, comes big because you get the 4% discount. We're using that money, and then also, if I need to, I'm going to loan money from the one-time only fund. And what I'm hoping I'm doing is cash funding ahead of pre-cash funding. And calling it cash because it's going to be a loan until FEMA starts kicking in with their funds. We didn't want to hold up waiting for FEMA. We can't wait for approvals. Whether they approve us or not, we still have to do it, so we're going to go
Right.
ahead and do it. And it's just finding the funds available. I have the funds available to at least keep us going for a while. And I also have our bond counsel as, we have a loan facility that I had them look at 2 years ago, and I've got him cranked up, and he's waiting for us to say the word, and he will start doing the documents for getting a loan if we need it. I would prefer not, of course, because it costs money, but right now, we're in good shape to at least help these guys, and so that we have enough to keep going. And that's what we didn't want to have happen, to slow anything down because of money.
Is there any way we can speed up the process with the consultant?
Yes, they're going to need our data from, we won't have the data compiled for them to even look at, and again, until we can see the walls. So I'm hoping in a couple weeks or sometime the water goes down so we can look at it. So we planned on compiling that data, getting a consultant, in October, and we can give that data to them. And now it's going to be, it's going to help us too to see, we can make up our own decisions too. If we see the toe of the seawall completely kicked out and that's in the majority, then we know the panels aren't long enough. But if we're seeing them snap at the oyster line, if, let's say the majority's at, well, we know we used old rebar in the old days, so it was metal, and I explained how that breaks. So if a lot of them are breaking at the oyster line, then we can say, well, maybe the new rebar we're using is going to fix that in the future. So when we do our study, we're going to be able to tell what the failure is.
Just so you know, because I actually have a little bit of expertise in this, because it has something to do with water. The old rebar, when it wasn't passivated properly, what happens is two things. One is the rebar will rust and it loses its structural integrity, but also as it rusts, it expands, and it does cracking of the concrete itself, so then the concrete also loses its integrity. And then frequently the result is a catastrophic failure, or okay, this is enough, and then, so that's why I asked the question about the type of rebar that's got a 90-year life instead of a 20-year life.
Yeah, because there's fiberglass rebar now too, not even metal.
Exactly.
Do we have any idea yet, Rick, of how many of the seawalls were newer seawalls versus the old
I'm
ones?
sorry, we don't. But we will I mean, that's definitely going to be in part of our analysis, but no, we do not.
But some,
Wondering if there was any
No.
way to gauge if what we're doing
No,
now works better.
we went out and tried to do a first blush. We didn't even measure with the tape measure. We just said, okay, that's that person's whole backyard. That's about 80 feet, and this looks like 50 feet. But we had to get those numbers for you, as well as procurement, so they can try to get a bid put together to address it. So,
some new ones went down.
yes, yeah.
Some new ones did go down.
And then we'll be able to look at that and see how, because it may have been a wall next to it. It could have been a domino effect. It may have pulled a new wall down. We just don't know the answers yet.
Yeah, and Mark made the comment, if the caps were connecting them, it could have been, maybe we need to cut caps. There's obviously a lot of questions that need to be answered.
Well, I mean, as far as these purchases go, is there any incremental way to do it? Or are we just gonna go buy $1.7 million worth of rebar?
We can lower the number. I mean,
We're going to buy as long as Rick has enough staff to keep making it. If we're going to go a subcontractor, we don't know, are we going to provide these materials and the sub's just going to do the work? Or are they going to provide the materials? So no, we'll buy it as needed.
Okay.
It won't go to waste. As he pointed out, 90-year stuff won't go to waste for too long. And we're just going to have to play it as far as how quickly things can be done. But we have to get out and get the contracts let, and they have to be federalized. I'm sure you've heard federalized
Yep.
a number of times. They have to be federalized, and when that's all done, then yes, we can start buying it. And then hopefully we'll be reimbursed from FEMA.
Okay,
One of the issues, and I don't know that this will be the case, but when you deal with FEMA, they may actually dictate the material you need to use, so they may not have, for example, they may not have fiberglass rebar approved yet for that, even though it might be the superior material. But they do have the passivated rebar, I know, having gone through this already.
well, I hate to get in the weeds with this, but there is a question, like what we did at Gilchrist Park was the FDOT standard. What do we do, what don't we do that would add to what, in our residential areas, what we had to do at Gilchrist Park?
Well, that's a design of, what they designed there is what you would typically find on a harbor or something, or an area with large wave action. That is a much superior design than what we do in a canal system. This is made for waves.
So it's much more than what,
Yes,
okay,
yes. It's very beefy. It's really made strong
okay.
for that
And
environment.
that survived,
Yeah, I haven't been told any different. We did lose some oil at Ashley
Right.
on the side there, but yeah. Yeah, so far so good.
I'm not sure the community's going to want us to wait.
no, just as, if we know it's incremental, that's fine, yeah.
Yeah, and we do, normally, we don't have a room to store all the
Right.
the rebar, so we order it in shipments.
Let me
Yeah, we'll get a
rephrase the
truckload.
question, maybe this will answer. Say if we authorize 1.9 and 1.7, we're gonna buy in increments, and we're at 800, we're halfway into this, and we decide to change design, we're not committed to necessarily buy the other half of that material?
That'd be, I think, correct.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, they're not, we aren't guaranteeing purchase amounts. All we're doing is we order a load.
Yeah.
And it comes in, that's about $65,000 just for one load. And we just keep ordering loads. And if Rick says, hey, we're getting a little low, we'll have a lead time, how long it takes us to get it. We'll order it in time, but it's.
So what we're here is
per-
talking about a not to
Those are the
exceed number.
answers we want.
Exactly. and with strict-
That's-
yeah, with
Yeah.
strict
There you
not to
go.
Does
exceed.
that, okay.
Yes, that's
Yes.
good.
We're just trying to get
Just
approval ahead
ask
of
me to
time.
translate,
Yeah.
That's quite all right.
Got it. Good deal.
Yes. Okay, we need a motion, I
Move
believe.
approval.
Second.
We have a motion, a second to approve the contracts. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried unanimously. We have no,
Thank you.
can you imagine if we had unfinished business today? This would really be crazy. Where are we at?
New business trailers.
Yeah, we don't have any unfinished business. That's amazing. Okay, but we do have a hearing at 5:01 PM for those who are interested. We forgot to mention, and I know, we're getting there. So then we do have new business, which is discussion of boat trailer parking in SRO district.
So we've gotten some calls, and the SRO districts do not allow any parking of boats on their driveways. This has to do with the seawalls, and do we want to relax enforcement of the code temporarily until the seawalls get fixed to allow folks to, if they can, if they have room, to put their boat on a trailer and park it in their driveway?
I mean, I wouldn't be in favor of just unlimited boat parking, but maybe some relaxation, but then to what? I don't know.
Lisa Hannon, interim zoning official for the record. When the canal maintenance contractor right now has to stage on a lot, we issue them a permit for however long they think it's going to take for them to do the work in that area. We could get with canal maintenance, and when these, not all boats out there will fit on a trailer and fit in a driveway. We all know that. But if we get a schedule from canal maintenance, and that person has a smaller boat that can go on a trailer that can go in the driveway, they can give us a pretty good time frame of when, and we could issue a permit within that time frame if it's up to council to relax that. But that was gonna be my suggestion, is to do it on a permit basis based on canal maintenance, their schedule.
That sounds reasonable. Lynn?
I'm adamantly opposed to that idea, and I'll tell you why. I think that there's going to be a lot of abuse of it, and first of all, let me say that I went to the Boaters Alliance board meeting the other day, and the Boaters Alliance is going to try to spearhead and orchestrate a way that they can work with all the local boat clubs to try to allow people who have vacant docks to allow people to use their docks while their seawalls are being replaced. And the Boaters Alliance is doing this, and also some of the boat clubs have already agreed to, team up with all of the people in their individual clubs. I know in my club, in the Mariners, we've got probably 100 or so docks that are vacant right now for people who have gotten out of boating, but they still have docks. Some of them still have lifts. A lot of them have electricity. So they're going to try to help orchestrate getting boats moved while the seawalls are replaced. And I think that's a much better solution instead of opening up a can of worms and allowing people to park boats in their driveways. I personally moved to Punta Gorda Isles because I didn't want that. And I'm adamantly opposed to the idea, even short-term.
We do it when we do regular seawall work, right?
No, ma'am,
No, we don't.
we don't.
I had to move,
No.
I had to find a place for my boat when my seawall
So
fell.
we don't, but we could get with the contractor and get a schedule, like you said.
We could. It would be entirely up to council if you wanted to
Okay.
move forward with that.
Gary?
This is just a thought, because you're dealing with more than one type of boat here. I'm obviously not gonna put my boat, which is a trawler, on a trailer and park it in my driveway. That's not gonna happen. But if I had a 28-foot or 24-foot runabout, that might be trailerable, that might be something else. And that would be convenient for a temporary basis. And Howard, I apologize if what I'm gonna say is wacko, but would it be possible for the city, since we've got a few hundred acres of high ground, to allow somebody, while they needed to, a city person that has demonstrated that they've lost seawall, and they have a boat on a trailer, as a courtesy to allow them to park that boat trailer with their boat on that ground during the period of time of repair,
What ground?
What are you talking about?
where the water plant is.
Oh, the water plant.
Yeah,
The water plant or the
big
sewer
giant
plant?
field.
or the sewer plant, whichever one's got the couple hundred acres.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
wouldn't want
it's-
to take,
Well,
Wouldn't wanna
the
take the
plants are
responsibility.
secured,
Yeah, the sewer plant has 900 acres.
yeah.
but really, they're gated, and,
Well, they're gated, so they're secured, that's my point,
but
so.
people traveling in and out of there, then you're gonna have to deal with who's credentialed to go in and out. That's probably a big can of worms.
Okay, well,
What if we were to talk to some of the places, like the RV storage places, and work out a discount agreement for short-term rental of space for some of those people? I think that's a much better solution.
Yeah, that was gonna be my suggestion, is that if staff is willing to put together a list of all the places that are dry storage locations, whether it's like Charlotte RV, or it's actually a dry storage, where they could just, and Burtstorm Marina, or wherever there might be capacity.
I wouldn't want to subsidize it, but if we could, that's what people are gonna do if we tell them no. They're gonna have to find a place.
We have the mooring field, if their boat can get to it.
Yeah, a large boat,
Yes.
like, we could, that would be,
That would be fine.
it would be
Yeah.
fine, because the mooring field's never quite that full anyway. That would be a natural for
Yeah, the
the,
mooring field.
the large boats.
Do we have an idea of how many people are affected, like, how many boats?
We got 15 we got 15 miles of, was it 15 miles of?
891 properties, I
you
think.
know, And maybe the average lot is 80 foot, because there's gonna be some long and some small, we know that.
Not all have boats?
I don't have
Not
boats,
all.
so.
No.
Not all.
There's an awful lot of vacant docks in the aisles that,
Yes.
that people could help through this
Yeah,
process.
if you can get that publicized, why don't we try that route?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have the Boaters Alliance monthly meeting tomorrow, and I'll bring it forward to them as well. And I think if they take on that leadership role and try to help by getting the boat clubs to all agree to do that for their own individual members, that covers over 1,000 boaters right there. And I mean, not that all of them have their seawalls missing, but it will certainly get the word out that that is available as an option.
And Lynn brings out a good point. This is a community that has a history of helping each other.
Right.
And at the same time, we don't want to put somebody in a place where we put salt on their open wound, and you're going to find a number of people that are willing to help us through it. I think it's a coordination issue more than anything else.
Yeah, that's why, I mean, if we could figure out a permit, I would probably be okay with that, because if there was abuse, we would have a way to deal with that.
I just would hate to start that. I don't know. I
Well,
don't
and once you start it, then people will say, oh, but there's a vacant lot next to me, I want to put it on the vacant lot, and then and
But the permit thing on one level, I mean, we understand we're in this critical situation, and this is very unique. I mean, if we did tie it to people's seawall being, it'd be hard to abuse that. At least I would think. I don't know.
I think one thing, though, maybe Howard brought up the point, and I think it's one thing that maybe we could do as a council, is make the mooring field temporarily
Free.
available to the
Yeah,
larger
free.
boats. I think that's something that
Come
we can
first
deal with,
serve.
or if we have to charge $10 or whatever, I don't care, but I'm just saying is make that available, because that's something we can do to help our citizens.
But if we
Sooner
have
rather
paying
than later.
customers in there right now, that would be a problem.
Well, the paying customers will have to stay,
Yeah.
but
No, I guess we could just say, if your seawall's
Well-
damaged, then you get a,
yeah, there aren't that many people in the mooring field, so we
Yeah,
probably
there
have
are.
at least 35 spaces, which is quite a few.
we'll contact the dock master and let him know.
Would we charge people for that?
We have a rate.
Okay.
I mean, do you want to not charge them? We don't have to.
I would say if they have the seawall damage, that we shouldn't charge them.
Yeah, I think that's would
If
be putting
first come,
salt on the
first
wound,
serve.
so to speak.
Yeah.
I think as a courtesy, if they have not accessibility to their property because of seawall repair, that we as a courtesy could allow them to, for a period of time, use the mooring field as
We'll
part of
let-
that permit process or
We'll
something.
let our dock master know.
Okay.
Recommendations from city officers, Howard.
501,
Well, it's
Budget.
9 now, we got plenty of time.
501, let's be back here for the budget public hearing, and we have started debris removal. We started in
Oh,
just the small piles, not the large piles.
but you did start today.
We did, and Burnstar Meadows, then we're heading into Burnstar Isles, then we'll head into PGI. Just a small, we're doing the small stuff with our trucks.
Okay.
Hopefully, we'll be getting the trucks in tomorrow to start the downtown area where all the large piles, most of the large piles
okay,
are.
okay.
But we're not doing the heavy stuff right now, but we did start.
Okay.
I think people will understand that, because you can't stop them from barreling and bagging. You're just not gonna stop them, even though I've tried to tell them, And I told Rick, a lot of people on our streets have lawn services, and they've hauled a lot of it away. I mean, Eleuthera, they hardly have anything. So those the good lawn people are very good.
Good
And
for
they're
us.
taking care of their
There
customers.
are a lot of lawn services that actually picked up all.
Yes, because the people said, just take it away and I'll pay for it or whatever, so.
The guy that does most of our block, he left the leaves, the fronds, but all the stumps of the trees that he had to, they're gone.
Good.
He took all the stumps.
All right, well, we started.
Okay. That's it?
That's it.
City attorney,
Nothing further.
city clerk.
Yes, under boards and committees, starting with vacancies. We have unexpired terms for an alternate on the Board of Zoning Appeals and for an alternate on the Building Board. And we also have a 3-year term on the Code Enforcement Board. Nothing under nominations, under appointments. For the Board of Zoning Appeals, here are your voting forms. We have 2 3-year terms on the Board of Zoning Appeals. We have 3 eligible applicants. You're voting for 2, please.
Oops.
Be filling in everybody's ballot.
Were you gonna vote for me, Rachel?
Thank you. Okay, well, we've got Mr. Lepore, who has been selected, but we need a runoff between Ms. Rasmussen and Mr. Zapke.
Those are just blank forms, so you would just write BZA at the top for me, please. So just voting for 1 here, is that,
Yes, between
Zapke or
Rasmussen or
Rasmussen.
Zapke.
thank you.
I'm missing an extra sheet.
Oh, you use a different sheet for that, okay.
No,
I
that's
didn't-
okay.
I
I'll
didn't
use-
give
I'll
you
use
one.
this- That's all right, I'll use the same one.
Sorry. Trying to say paper.
It's okay.
We cannot have a tie now. Keep your math skills sharp. This late hour. It's 9:05.
It's a long, long day already. 1:30. I don't know.
Ms. Rasmussen is the appointee.
Thank you very much, that's all I have.
I have a comment. Can we encourage Mr. Zapke to apply for the open alternate position?
Mr. Zapke already indicated he had no interest in the alternate.
What?
He already indicated he had no interest in the alternate seat.
Okay, policy and legislation, I just have a few announcements of Baron von Figs, what was his name this morning? Fig Newton?
Oh,
In his Baron outfit, dropped this off, and he wanted us to publicize the air show October 13th through the 15th, and they have this really cool 5K, which will be Saturday, October 14th, Saturday morning, and they're running on the runways of the airport, and it's gonna be super cool. Sherry Lennon is organizing that. The other thing is I got the emails, the big Orange Fest that got delayed because of Irma is November 18th. So they were able to rebook most of their entertainment people. I don't think Los Lobos was on there, but they're still working on getting more entertainment. So they were able to reschedule because that was a big deal. And tomorrow I will be going to Atlantic Beach to the Florida League of Cities, my first board meeting and orientation. And I think that's it. Council member comments, Gary.
First of all, I want to wish all my colleagues a Shana Tova, which translates to have a sweet and good new year. This is 5778, so, and they'll begin at sundown tonight. So I wish you all a good year.
Thank you.
So glad that we are all back. And the pickleball, or pickleplex team would like to let you all know that they have rescheduled the unveiling, and now they're going to call it groundbreaking to October 17th at 9. I believe it's 9 o'clock at FSW. They were talking about maybe even earlier, but I'll let you know. But it is, right now they're talking October 17th at 9 o'clock in the morning.
If you can just have Karen put it on our
Yeah,
calendar.
so if you can put it
that
on
would
our
be
calendar,
perfect.
Karen, that'd be great. I'll let you know if it's any earlier.
I
Lynn?
have nothing.
Jahan.
Two things. One, the Blanchard House is having its opening of the new exhibit on September 29th between 3 and 6. And number two, I would like us at a future meeting to discuss the, with Tom and being able to pay for his, do what we need to do to be able so he can retire now and receive his retirement now rather than having to wait later.
Is there any support to bring that to a meeting?
I'm sorry, what?
To bring, what would it be? Go to the pension board first?
Well, you would have to discuss at a public meeting on an agenda whether you want to move it forward to the pension board and then back to you in an ordinance. So do you want me to put it on an agenda to discuss?
I'm okay with it.
I kind of think, I personally think we need to for two reasons. Like, one, for the morale of the police department, and two, for him and his family. I think that just the service he's done for the city, I think to leave them out there. I mean, law enforcement is very hard to get, for him to get hired. I mean, just from knowing what I know about the field. I mean, he would be out there for a little while, and so I just think at least giving this a try.
I think we should also keep in mind that though there was a tragic event that led to this very sad circumstance, a lot of really wonderful things were accomplished under his tenure. And some of them have unfortunately are going the wrong way at the moment until we get our ship stabilized again. But I think we need to acknowledge that he's done a lot of, under his leadership, our police department has had a lot of great accomplishments that were directly involved with his, the way he structured and maintained the culture within our department.
This is a tough one. Because personally, I see going with it, but then the other side, the family's been through so much that it would really pain me to offer up any more discussion, especially in a public forum. That's my hesitation. As much as if we could, not have to do it in that manner, I think it would be palatable, but
I mean, could it be like a shadow meeting, or is that not, no, has it been?
No,
I have no authority to.
I don't think so.
All right, no, see, part of it is that, see, in his case, if, it's like, I'm just saying now, just on a human level, he and his family perceive that his outcome would be determined by the legal case. And actually, it wasn't, it was determined by the Internal Affairs Investigation. And so I find to some degree, he could have prepared his family better for an outcome if he would have known that the legal case didn't have anything to do with the outcome of his employment. And I just think that, I just think as a city, especially, I mean, for what he's done for our city, I think that we owe it to him at least to give that consideration. That's why I'm saying that. Because like you said, this is a terrible event, but also his family should also be a tragedy in this as well. And that's where
I don't disagree with that. I just don't know if I can bring it to a public forum.
Obviously, John, I've had some, not discussions together, I want to point out, but independent discussions with the individual that we're talking about and others, probably. And it's my understanding, and I can't verify this, my understanding that basically what he's asking for is to be able to take his retirement now, start collecting it now, where he would be able to probably collect it again in about a year and a half or 2 years. I have to get exactly what his age is. And to do that, he would have to take a penalty. I would like to suggest that we postpone this discussion that Jaha and I are trying to introduce till the very next week, because I think that I would like to have a conversation with him and somebody else, a financial planner specifically, so that he becomes fully aware of what the ramifications would be for him financially. And maybe there's a way that we can resolve this quietly, and if not, I think it is deserving of a discussion, because this is a man that has given a lot of his life to, and in a sense is also with other discussions that Jah has pointed out, I think it's something we need to approach delicately, but we may need the approach, and if it becomes messy, unfortunately, sometimes families become messy. But I think there might be a way to resolve this quietly.
I like his recommendation. Just maybe do more research and see if there's some way of,
But he wants it right now, doesn't he? I mean, he's asking for it to start immediately, is that correct?
Correct.
I'm suggesting that we tell Tom he's gonna have to wait 2 more weeks before we give him an answer of whether we're gonna proceed with the discussion.
Is there any consensus to even proceed with that discussion?
see, the other side of this, and this is the sad part, is that, and maybe this would come with discussion with him, is that I don't know where he is from the standpoint of where he wants to go legally. In Florida, if a law enforcement officer does anything that's untoward, they have a probable cause hearing, which they didn't have for him. And so from the standpoint of the union, they might fight a real fight, because it's like, the first question I asked Sandy when the charges came up, I said, and she confirmed with Tallahassee, says, was there a probable cause hearing for Tom? Because anytime, any officer, no matter what level of the charge, if anything that would possibly jeopardize their license as a law enforcement officer, practice the art of law enforcement, they have a probable cause hearing. And in this case, he didn't exist on one piece of paper. So I'm saying that on one hand, I mean, if we take away just the humanistic aspect, the other side is that if he did want to get legal, that might be a fight that might cost us a whole lot more money, because of the fact that from the standpoint of the field of law enforcement, because the law enforcement body itself didn't see him as doing anything wrong, that it may present us a problem legally for the future, which could maybe cost us a bit more. So I'm just in the air.
I don't know. I mean, we got advice from our labor attorney that as a police chief, he doesn't fall under the Police Bill of Rights, even though we did the process as if we afforded him all the opportunity under it. I mean, so, again, the decision was made. It's whether or not you as a council want to bring forth his proposal.
Just simply to answer your question, Councilmember, that the only time that we can have a shade meeting
Yes.
is once litigation has been filed and the discussions are in terms of costs associated with the litigation. So
And strategy, right?
it's strategy for settlement,
Yeah.
yeah.
Strategy for settlement.
Actually, the way it reads is costs associated with the strategy for settlement.
Okay.
So settlement discussions per se are not permissible in the shade.
I get your human element of it. I said I would stand by Howard's decision, and that's where I'm still there.
See, I don't see this as not standing by Howard's decision. I think it's just more the aspect that this is something that probably wasn't in our minds in the bigger picture, was that aspect of that. It's just.
Well, yeah, it wasn't in our minds because we weren't, it was city manager's purview.
Yeah, that's true.
I personally don't have a problem with the changing of separation status. As a compromise, maybe. I don't know about the other part of it. And I hate to drag it back out into the public viewing section again, because the dust just settled. And I thought it had settled for good. And it was a good thing, because the city can heal and move forward at this point. And I like and respect Tom a lot.
Me too.
He was a very good man for this city, and he did a lot of good things, as Gary alluded to. I just would hate to stir the mud up again and make the Knowlton family have to relive this 100 more times. And it's gonna get really very visible if we do that.
The only problem is the dust isn't settled. I'm probably thinking more about our police department. When police departments go sideways is where they don't feel like they're protected, and talking to officers, the morale is very, very low now, and I think that something to acknowledge at least those feelings, that's something that, I mean, we may not hear stuff outside, but I know from them for a fact, inside the department, is people aren't cool.
I have to concur with Jaha from my experience of individual personal conversations with various individuals in the department, and not just in the police department itself. Because this is, there's a sadness, we're not gonna make it go away, but there is a sadness that we, I think, should explore to see if we can temper, so that we can move forward. It's still gonna be with us, it's gonna be with us 20 years from now.
Because I'm not talking about rehiring. I mean, let me see, the decision is a decision, but this aspect, I think, is a good middle place where his dedication is acknowledged and his family's taken care of, but at the same time, he's separated from the city, and I think it's a middle place that's livable for everybody.
I wouldn't disagree with, the sentiments about Tom whatsoever. And I guess if it could be handled discreetly, I wish there was a way that he could just opt for retire now at a discounted level. I certainly would not want him, early retirement to cost the city anymore. But if it was at a discounted rate, then, because you retire early, then that really doesn't, from an actuarial standpoint, doesn't cost the city anything.
It goes against the rules of the pension board, right?
Well, we would have to adopt a
to
special
adopt an
ordinance
ordinance.
for this special case.
And at the way it sets right now, he would have to take a penalty of what he would receive by taking it earlier.
He- He's eligible for all the years he's put in.
Yeah, I understand that.
If he was 45, he'd collect immediately.
That's my point, but if he takes it before if we were to go ahead and approve an ordinance to allow him to take it before 45, he would still be taking a penalty, because actuarially, there's only so much of a pillow in that fund that's
I don't-
attributable to him.
Again, I don't know. We haven't even brought it forth.
Yeah.
It didn't even enter the equation.
I think that would be a question that would benefit in having a discussion with them, if we could, want to try to make this quietly. Typically, in those types of situations, when you, in business world, when you have an executive that you may let go early, part of their exit plan may be, a year or two severance to get them to the point that they get their 85 points and out, if that's the type of plan you're on. And that's not what I'm advocating here. I'm just saying is that if he only has to go a year and a half, there may be some other avenues that we quietly might be able to pursue to temper him, that have no effect, not on the city at all. And I'm just asking for 2 weeks to explore that. But it would help me in that discussion if I were to know that if he were to take his retirement, if we were to approve that and he took his retirement now, a year and a half, 2 years early, what penalty he might incur versus waiting until he was 45.
Well, I thought the idea was
Financially.
to put an ordinance together. His thought process is that we put an ordinance together so that he collects now what he would collect at 45. That's what his thought process is.
I understand
I
that.
can't agree with, as
understand
humanitarian
that.
as I want to be,
That was
I
the
can-
question I was asking,
not agree
Howard.
to that.
You want to know if,
If we were to leave his funding right where it's at now, actuarially,
yeah,
It is, yeah, because he's.
and he were to take early retirement off of that, he would take it at a reduced penalty versus if he waited at 45.
There's rules of the pension plan that would allow that.
yeah, I don't know.
So maybe what he's asking is,
I don't
maybe have 2 weeks to explore possibilities.
Possible.
Is there is there consensus, though, to bring this back in 2 weeks? That's what we need to determine.
I mean, it may be that there's a way to do this, it may not have to come out in a public forum, if you can find a way, possibly, more I think what Gary's asking is just to look, we
The
haven't
other thing is,
explored-
we don't run the police pension plan. We don't.
No, we
The city
don't.
council does not.
Oh, I know, but I'm
So
saying.
whatever we do goes to the pension board.
Yeah.
And that's where my heartburn is. If there was any other way to separate, and I think from what I've heard, Howard tried, then I think those options would have been explored.
This may not even be relevant to the situation, and I'm not a labor attorney, but I seem to recall either Case or Attorney General's opinion that where a local government tried to do something similar to what you were suggesting, a severance package upon leaving, and it was considered to be an unlawful gift of municipal funds, that it's not, you can't do that in the public setting. So we don't have all of the tools available at our disposal that the private sector has. So I don't know if that's.
And I
what-
actually understand it. Actually, where I was coming from wasn't, I understand what you said, and I was misconstrued. There might be, and I don't know this for sure, but there might be funds outside of the city that could be made available to temper him until he was 45.
Well, that's always a
In other words,
possibility.
there might be parties that might be willing to apply to that funding to give him that subsidy until he was 45, and then at 45, and that could be handled very quietly, and then it doesn't have any direct effect on the city whatsoever.
Sure, yeah.
That's what I'm just saying before, that I'm asking is I'd like 2 weeks to explore that issue.
Yeah, it may not have to come back up. I mean, just 2 weeks just to put energy into looking at options, and that, more of that is what it is. It doesn't necessarily have to pop back up, just at least put energy into seeking possibilities for it.
I'm getting the sense, because of the sunshine laws, I don't know this for sure, but obviously, Mr. Cummings and I have had conversations with Mr. Lewis and with other individuals, probably, at least in my case, with several other individuals. And there might be a way to resolve this, but it hasn't been, Irma got in the way, quite frankly, otherwise I would have been able to talk about it today. I had other distractions between Linda and Irma.
Well, provided that you're doing this on your own and not
Yeah,
as a
exactly.
representative of the city council.
Absolutely,
You can do that,
absolutely,
and-
I'm doing this
can do that
as a
anyway.
private individual.
Yeah.
And even the idea of bringing it back to the city council might implicate some issues that we may not want to implicate. So why don't we just, leave it the way it is, and whatever you would like to do on an individual basis on your own, that's probably the way to do it.
Okay.
Anything else?
No.
Citizens' comments, any topic, you can use the mic, and then we're
can't
gonna
now.
adjourn. You can wait till the meeting's over.
You can use that podium
Yeah,
right
you
closest
can
to you.
use that,
if you-
can you get around that?
Right
table?
to the right.
Yeah, he can get around there. You gotta go to the microphone, I'm sorry.
Yep, you need to go behind the podium and speak into the microphone.
I liked, I'm a.
State your name, please.
My name is Samuel C. Hoagland. I live at 2716 Ryan Boulevard in Punta Gorda, and I was a volunteer for the police department. I had hip replacement, and that's why I am not back to work yet. But I hope that we can work out something, and I would be a willing participant to help him out. I'll leave it at that.
We will
Thank you.
talk. We will talk. Thank you very much, sir.
I know you're tired of hearing from me. Martha Beretta, resident. Several things. First, would just like to thank you all for your very thoughtful decision today regarding the Aquesta project. I think that it is good for the future of Punta Gorda, not just a segment of Punta Gorda, but the future of Punta Gorda. Probably you were not here, or you were not born. I see a couple of you were not even born yet, when Punta Gorda was the way that I mentioned that it was. The town that everybody talks about, coming to this small town with this quaintness, was changed in the 1960s when the first wetlands and the first mangrove groves were destroyed to build the first development. And so that we lost. Some of us know that first development was the beginning of the change. And so since we made that change, us who have been here since the beginning, well, I wasn't here since the beginning, but my family's been here since the beginning. I'm not that old. We had to go through the change. And so the change, development, is just part of what it's like, because that place that everybody's talking about was changed forever when the first development was built here. Lastly, if I can't read my notes here, I would be, sir, what's your name? You told me that once. I would be happy to work on any kind of outside of making it public. I certainly agree that I don't think that this case needs to be public in any sense again, but I would be willing to work individually with any of you to try to resolve this, because Tom was really, and some of you know, we're at Florida Department of Law Enforcement and Valor. Tom is an exceptional officer, and there have been only officers who've had, police chiefs who've had officers commit grievous crimes have not been fired or let go. I'm talking about when an officer goes out and kills unarmed people, that officer gets to stay. And so I really wish that you would consider working out whatever you can work with Tom, because he was an exceptional chief. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, seeing none, we are adjourned.
Martha.
Oh,